Alhamdulillah, salatu salam ala Rasulillah. Welcome everybody. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. I am here for a very special episode of Rhyme and Reason with the world traveler, the youth developer extraordinaire, the storyteller master, okay? Abu Bakr Fakhry. Marhab Shaykh, how are you doing?
Allah barik feek, alhamdulillah.
Always good to see you.
Very good to see you as well.
Allah barik
Very,
feek.
very blessed.
So I am, I've known you for years. I actually know it's 7 years this December that I've known you. Yes?
How did you count?
I just remember. I mean, there are some people who you remember the first day that you meet them, and
wow.
most people I don't, but I remember the first time I met you, alhamdulillah, here in Houston. And since then, it's been an absolute pleasure meeting you a lot in Boston, which is where you live. And you have when I think of people who work with youth that I've met throughout the United States, you're one of the short list of people who I just consider to be incredibly exceptional in what you do. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you. And that's why I'm really happy to be able to pick your brain a little bit with regards to the projects that you do. And I think people will be really interested when they hear about the Arcanum project itself and Arcanum Adventures and the things that you do. So just from the get-go, you were an engineer. You studied engineering, and then very quickly you transitioned into this project called Arcanum, where you work with a lot of youth in the Boston area, and you develop them skills as well as religious programming as well as adventure projects. So what made you go from a career as an engineer to full-time doing working with young people?
Okay. It all started that I never wanted to be an engineer to begin with. Not exactly like I didn't want to be an engineer, but it's more of I became engineer as a result of being Egyptian and an Egyptian family with Egyptian parents who tell you like you have to be either engineer or doctor or otherwise,
Okay.
That's the style. So I grew up.
Are all your brothers
everyone in my family is an engineer.
Okay.
I grew up. I was never even asked this question before. Like, what do you want to be when you get older?
Yeah.
It was like by default, I'm going into engineering. So I became an engineer for that purpose. It was cool. But I think when I started volunteering, working with youth and traveling and doing this type of work, it was still in a volunteer space. I found that I have a lot of passion for this work. I enjoy doing it. I obviously didn't enjoy going to a 9-to-5 job, engineer, like doing this engineering work. And I don't think any engineer does, except for my older brother. But I never met an engineer who was like very excited 8 in the morning to go to his job.
I haven't met very many either. Yeah.
Yeah. So it wasn't a very easy decision, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala kind of like made it easy for me. After 4 years doing the engineering work, and I was working for a very nice, good environment, good company, good pay and all of that, I kind of like decided to, what, I'll spin off and I'll do my thing. So I did a 1-month pilot project in a local mosque in Foxborough in Sharon, like very near.
So in the Massachusetts and Boston area.
Mm-hmm. Right. And the result from this pilot project was phenomenal, mashallah. Like it looks like the community was hungry for something like this. Everyone was sending their children. We got really close with the kids in no time. It was like such an amazing vibe, to be honest with you. By the end of this month, I kind of like, decision was there. Allah made it easier for me, made me see that this is a very needed type of work. The communities are looking for something like this. And at that time, I decided to leave my job and I started.
So what was the pilot program and what were the age ranges of the kids?
The pilot project was mainly during the month of Ramadan. It was Ramadan 2013. Ages was anything from like 6-7 years old up to 15. And then we split them. So we did like 6 to 12. So the preteen kind of age. And then 12 to 15, 16, that was the teens program. We did like some nights for this age and some nights for this age. We had over like 100 kids coming to the programs. We did sleepovers. We did Quran memorization program before iftar, and we put together a very nice kind of closing ceremony to the month towards the end. This time made the idea possible for people to like imagine what is this project going to look like. So it wasn't any like formal project. It wasn't any under any particular name, but when it happened, when people were very happy with how their kids experienced this Ramadan, it made it very easy for us when we said, okay, here is a structured program, a mentorship program, etc. And people have to sign up to it through a particular sign-up form or sign-up process. People accepted this bit after this pilot project.
So then you then basically go full-time into this.
Right.
This is what I'm going to do. And that's when Arcanum was founded.
Right. There was a project before Arcanum, and then Arcanum.
So what is Arcanum? What exactly are the programs that you offer through it?
Okay. So Arcanum, to kind of give Arcanum a little bit of an introduction here, the concept where it came from, I think I've observed many masajid hiring youth directors who come in, work for a year or two, they bring the youth, they create some programming, etc. And then what happens is those people, at least in many experiences that I've observed, they leave. Yeah. And when they leave, the programs die out. Yeah. Everyone is back to square one, and then they look for another youth director. And
it takes 10 years to find another youth director.
I think I would say the main reasons for this process not to be working very well are two things. Number one is in many cases the boards of the masajid get involved with like this guy or this lady who's trying to build up the youth program. They interfere a lot. They kind of like, and they don't necessarily have experience in the youth world, and this annoys like young people like myself when I was trying to build these kind of ideas up. Because this interference was never like in our favor, just to put it like in short sentence. And the other thing is there's no career for someone like to kind of look up to. Okay, I will come and work here as a youth director, and then what's next? So a lot of people realize this reality in 2-3 years time frame, and then they leave. Which made me realize the gap and realize the potential need.
And this is very true, and I've seen this as well. So number one is that you don't have, you've got way too much interference coming from the outside. You're not in control of the project. Right. And number two is there's no growth for you in the project.
Very true.
You have to negotiate a salary increase or something. That's pretty much the only thing that you can do.
That's the only thing, right? What's next for you, you know? So, and this is where the idea of Arcanum came about. I said, like, we want to create this space for Muslim youth that's not necessarily dependent on one person. It's like a teamwork. It's an organization, right? So there is like something for the youth, and it's independent. So it's kind of, it has like, because we've been developing it for many years now. So kind of like studying the market as we go and see what works and what doesn't with the community and so on. But that's where the idea came from. And basically the dream is, inshallah, for us to see it grow and adopted by different communities and different masajids across the country, where every masjid can have the Arcanum program be like the youth program for their kids, which allows for like everyone to be happy. Masajid are looking for youth programs, but they don't have the recipe, and now we have the kind of the know-how that we can develop for other people. What is Arcanum? Basically, it's a small community of people, like young people. We develop these programs for the kids to develop their character, to develop their knowledge, to equip them with skills. So it's a mentorship program. Every 7 teens have a mentor and a mentor assistant.
Every 7 teams have one mentor.
Yeah, every 7.
That's assigned to them.
Right. Every 7 kids or teens, so it depends on the age, have a mentor and a mentor assistant. And usually mentor assistants are kind of like freshman college students who are getting in the process to become mentors in a year or 2. Okay. So they're kind of like getting trained. And so that's like the main structure is that like it's a mentorship program. And
Do you have mentors who are like 15 and 14 as well? Meaning who's mentoring the younger ones?
it's still, so 14 and 15 would be assistant mentors to the mentors for even the younger ones. But a mentor has to be a little like someone who's older than 18 years old.
Okay.
And then the program has three main components. I would say the religious component, that's like spirituality, knowledge, lectures, anything like when you try to develop the basic knowledge and understanding of Islam with these kids. The second component is the skills development, and every semester we do develop a different skill for the kids. I'll give you an example. One semester we had a short film competition. We brought experts in the field to give workshops to the kids how to edit and shoot and record and make a film. And then the competition between the teams was like who's going to develop the best short film competition. Last semester we had financial literacy, so we gave the kids workshops about investments and stock market and all of that, and then we gave each team like the fake money through some of these apps. So every team was given $10,000 and they were asked to invest it in the market, and the team that comes at the end of the semester with the best return on their investment wins the competition.
Now this sounds amazing. How much time does this take from these kids? Because we're still operating on the Sunday school model, right? Where your relationship is, hold on one second, let me just grab this microphone. Let me just pull it out. There we go. Okay. Hold on. There we go. Yeah, no problem. So we're still operating on the Sunday school model where it's still bothering me. Hold on. It's almost done. Okay, there we go. Yeah. So we're still operating on the Sunday school model where, a kid's relationship with the masjid or with the community is really just 3 hours. So how many hours per week are these kids involved in the Arcanum program?
Okay. Part of the structure is we meet every weekend. We meet on Saturdays. So every Saturday we have what we call a regular session. Regular session is usually 5 hours. It's split between all three components. So during the 5 hours, there's a Quran circle, there's a lecture, but there's also like an hour and a half time dedicated to the project and an hour and a half just dedicated for fun and playing. And fun and playing is actually an extremely important component to our program, and that's number one, what attracts the teens to come to the program, because we do a lot of like hardcore, very active games and fun activities and stuff, and it also allows for the character to develop, right? So if you have a kid who's very shy, or if you have a kid who has anger management like problems, or this is when the mentor come to play, right? Like they come in and they correct certain behaviors or help someone to integrate, or help someone who's not very social to kind of like open up and become more social with their friends, etc. Every weekend, every Saturday we meet, and then every month we do a special program. A special program it could be a sleepover, could be a field trip, something like that, a hike. And then every semester we go on a retreat, like it's a 2-night, 3-day retreat somewhere else, not Massachusetts. So we go Vermont, Maine, New Hampshire, like upstate New York, etc. And then every year we go on the international trips. These are the kind of like the main times of the program. Now, some of these projects require an extra 3-4 hours a week from the teens to meet with their mentor to work on this project, and especially towards the end of the competition. So usually competitions are like 3 months long. In the beginning, it's easier. Towards like the last 2-3 weeks, they actually put a lot of hours on it. And it's like very fun and everyone is engaged. So no one is concerned about like the hours. The hours, exactly. It's just very engaging.
But it's safe to say it's a lot more hours than your regular Sunday school.
It is. I think
you're talking about 5 hours on Saturdays, and then you are increasing it dependent on whatever the workload is.
Certainly.
MashaAllah.
Yeah,
and
there's a lot of engagement.
You find them to be very engaged.
Very.
Well, and that's the thing, right? Is that people feel like these kids aren't attached to their phones, for example, when they're with you on Saturdays, are they?
Right. No, it's a little bit of a struggle. Sometimes you have to remind them to stay away from their phones. Sometimes we, like in certain retreats, we make it phone free. We collect all the phones for the entire retreat, which was amazing. And it's actually amazing by the kids. Like at the end of the experience,
They're
they
happy.
said that was like amazing.
Yeah.
They had to coordinate with some of their friends to kind of like keep the, I think, strikes. Or
Keep the streaks.
streaks.
Oh
okay.
my God.
Like
yeah.
for them when, when the phones were away. But yeah.
That's hilarious.
It was great.
Okay, and so once a semester, you're taking all of these kids to camping or something like that, and once a year you're taking them on these international trips.
Right.
And is the international trips Arcanum Adventure? So you have two things, right? So you have Arcanum, which is the local project, and then you have Arcanum Adventure.
Right.
And Arcanum Adventure is the international trips.
The international trips. Correct.
Tell me about these international trips. So you take, these are over 100 kids, right?
Right.
And you're taking 100 kids from Boston, and you're taking them to Spain, and you're taking them to Malaysia, and you're talking about 12-year-olds, 13-year-olds, 14-year-olds.
Right. Our average size of a trip is, you can say, 60.
Okay.
I don't travel with all 100, but typically, like we're a group of 60 who travel internationally. So, well, I love traveling growing up myself, and I think I've benefited a lot from traveling. There's tremendous amount of lessons and things that you benefit from, and life experiences you get from learning. And I always wanted these kids to get similar experience, to travel away from their parents, away from their country or culture and the things that they're used to, and try something new. So that's what kind of like brought the international travel component to Arcanum. There has been a lot of growth, I would tell you, that I've seen from these trips.
They're like, how long are they?
Usually 10 days, sometimes like 14, but typically like in the 10, 11, 12 days range. Amazing results. I'll be very honest with you. Like just the simplest result from those trips is we come back 60 strong. Everyone is brother to everyone. Everyone is sister with everyone. Like the bonds that get created over these trips, you'll become like one unit. So when we are like putting a lot of effort and a lot of thinking in order to build this mentorship program, the most important component is the human connection, right? You want the kids to trust their mentor. You want the mentor to be close and friends with the kids for this whole mentorship thing to work. Take people on a trip 13 days and come back, you did it all. Yeah. You don't need anything else. Already memories and stories and fun events happened and all of that. So alhamdulillah, this was amazing. Even life skills, you know.
What do y'all do when you go? So what's like a
typical trip?
Yeah.
We have also within our trips we have 3 components.
Okay.
So we have the adventure part. This is when we go, like we did the highest bungee jump in the world. We jumped the highest bungee jump in the world.
Where was that?
In South Africa. I had 42 kids jump this one, and I'll be honest.
So there was 18 kids who didn't jump. They just said no, thank you.
Yeah.
I definitely would have been one of those kids.
Okay. I wanted to.
You wanted to bungee jump?
No.
Oh.
I didn't want to bungee jump.
But it
was very embarrassing.
Yeah.
When my 12 years old.
I would have said, listen, make fun of me all you want, but I'm going to be right here. Y'all go ahead.
No, for me it's different. I had to prove that.
Yeah.
And we went
skydiving. Is that what they say? You had to slaughter the cat.
Yeah.
Okay.
In Slovenia allows skydiving from the age of 11. So also, like, we're 65. I think most of the kids got to like jump from an airplane in Slovenia. And Slovenia is a super beautiful country that is underrated.
Yeah, did you really have 12-year-olds skydiving?
Yeah, a lot of them. And these are amazing like adventures that alhamdulillah we got to do. And
that kid will go back to school that next year, the coolest kid, right? Yeah. So he tells everybody, I skydived last summer. They're like, where? In Slovenia.
Right. We had been to over 15 countries so far. I have some kids who had been with us from the beginning, been to all 15 countries with us, and then probably like another 3-4 with their family, like travel. So, and I get this all the time when they get asked this question in school, like, okay, did anyone travel outside of the United States before? And some of the kids are no, some of the kids are like, oh yes, we've been to like the Bahamas or something. And then like the Arcanum kids are usually like, oh, I've been to 18 countries. And someone who's like 14 years old.
Wow,
It's
mashallah.
amazing. Alhamdulillah.
MashaAllah. So what are the three components?
The three components. So the adventure component is of course a big one. And then the service component. So every country we go to, we find a project where we volunteer. So we kind of like spend a day or two volunteering in a local project and also get the kids to experience this. And the last component is the workshops that we give. And this is based on each trip, right? So for example, in South Africa, all of the workshops were historical about the apartheid and all of that. When we went to Umrah, obviously, like it was a very intense religious component in that trip and so on. So in every trip, we try to balance between those three. That's what we do in our trips.
So you have multiple kids who have gone on multiple trips.
Many.
So that bond between these kids then is just super, super strong.
We are family, or even more than family.
MashaAllah.
Like alhamdulillah, I've been an older brother to many kids, and that's why I have a very strong attachment to these families. I consider them like my little
I mean, to be honest, when you told me a couple months ago, you reached out to me and you told me like, since COVID started, that you guys you took your Arcanum online, and that you were doing like these workshops. You were doing 3-4 hour workshops with them every single day. Like, was it 5 days a week?
It was 5 days a week.
So 4 hours a day on Zoom. These are high school kids, middle school kids. 4 hours a day. Doing
typically 3 hours.
3 hours a day, whatever it is, right? It's multiple hours a day. You're talking about you were doing fiqh as well as other subjects as well, right?
Stories of the Quran. We did it for a month.
And these 60 kids were with you every single day.
Alhamdulillah, more than 60. We're average like 90.
90 on Zoom every single day, mashallah.
Alhamdulillah. I'll be honest with you. When COVID started, I was very concerned, like switching Arcanum from like meeting in person to online. It didn't sound like an easy transition, but alhamdulillah, like the moment we brought the online sessions, we do like the fiqh, then we do like Q&A, and then we do fun activities and fun games. And I have a fantastic team that was very creative in developing like online games, right? Like last night we're just playing Mafia. So you know how you like play Mafia in a room? We do like an online Zoom version of Mafia, and it goes amazing. So we initially were planning to meet an hour a night, like every day, and then an hour dragged to 2, dragged to 3, and alhamdulillah, when we started like to gather again in person, we gathered in Eid, and some of the parents were like kind of thanking us for the work we've done and all of this. One mother said, I had a problem that my kids are on Arcanum every single day for 3 hours, and I think this was an amazing problem for a mom to have.
Yes, ma'am.
So alhamdulillah, I mean, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blessed us with so many amazing things, to be honest with you.
Now, when you say like, this mom, so it's not just the kids who are this incredible family. Obviously, their parents now are part of the family, because they're sending their kids on multiple trips with you. And one of the most amazing trips, I think, one time you told me that it was a surprise trip. You didn't tell anybody where they were going.
Yeah, that was
and
fun.
They were all, nobody knew until they got to the airport, right? And they booked they reserved their spots, and their parents were like, here, take them somewhere. Right?
We did a trip we went to 5 countries in Europe, but this trip was a surprise trip. So we announced to Arcanum, we have an international trip coming up. We're not going to tell you where we're going. If you like it, like if you like the idea, sign up. But I promise you, it's going to be fun. They know, like if I say, I promise it's going to be fun, it's going to be fun. Okay. Alhamdulillah. So I actually had 65 people signing up to this trip, and I told their parents.
And nobody knew where it was going. The parents didn't know where it was going.
Some of the parents, I said to the parents, if you're kind of like, you want to know, like you come, I'll tell you where we're going, but you promised me, kids are not going to know. And the kids said, okay, what are we going to wear? So don't worry, I'll send you a packing list to tell you like what to pack, whether it's like winter or summer clothes and all of that. And the kids came to the airport. It was funny because, like when you go check in, I spoke to the airlines first. I said, give everyone their first boarding pass, which we had a transit in Zurich. and don't give them the second boarding pass. Keep all the second boarding pass. I'll take it all. So, but I spoke to some employees, not the rest. So some other employees, like when someone step up, where are you traveling to today? Oh, I don't know.
Yeah.
You don't know? Like the guys at the airport were astonished, like, what's going on here? And yes, and even like during the trip, we wouldn't tell them what's the next country. So we'd go visit the country for 2-3 days. And then on the bus.
So what was the first country you went to?
Switzerland.
Okay.
And then Germany, Austria, Slovenia, Italy.
MashaAllah.
These were the five. It was incredible, alhamdulillah. It was amazing.
That's amazing. So what is the importance of mentorship that you've seen? You've got this tier system, you've got the assistant mentors, you've got the younger mentors, and then obviously the kids have a relationship with you as well. What is the importance of mentorship in the lives of these kids?
I think mentorship has been an extremely important component of my upbringing.
Because a lot of communities, they think, we have a sheikh, boom. Right. So all of our kids should be okay. We have a sheikh, right? But you're not talking about, and for me, I was not influenced by a sheikh growing up. I didn't even meet a sheikh till I was probably much older. But older brother type figures were very important in my life.
Actually, statistics show that, if I remember correctly, 70% of those who grow up with a mentor become a mentor to someone else at some point in their lives. I found, as you said, older brothers and mentors were extremely important in my upbringing. I never went to the sheikh and said, I'm struggling with this or that. But it was always like that older brother that I trusted, that I could speak to and open up with and all of that. And I think it goes without saying, all of these kids, most of them will not go to the imam of the masjid or to the sheikh and tell them what's going on in their lives. But they do with their older brothers and older sisters and the people that they trust the most. And until today, just the other day, a girl who traveled with us to Malaysia in 2017 reached out to me last week. 3 years straight, I never talked to her. But she said, I have a problem, and you just came to mind. Because, she had this mentor during one of the trips, and she remembered, and now she's reaching out. I found mentorship extremely important. I'll tell you one thing. Whenever I give trainings to my mentors, I tell them, wallahi, sometimes I found myself walk exactly the same way one of my mentors used to walk physically. Ajib. When we have a sleepover, when we were kids, we would have a sleepover, and one of my mentors would walk around to make sure we're sleeping and we're not chatting overnight and stuff. He would walk in a particular way, right? One day I found myself walking the same walk, not metaphorically, right? Physically walking the same walk without paying attention. And all of a sudden I was like, wow. Yeah. I'm
programming.
Programming, right? Yeah. So it does affect you a lot. And if you had a good mentor growing up, it helps you in multiple levels. And I think it is working out with many of our kids, because kids these days face all sorts of pressures and difficulties, and they get distracted with so many different things, and they need someone to keep them on track. And I see it when I have a great mentor. Alhamdulillah, many of our mentors are great, but when you have a great mentor, you see it in their kids immediately.
So are these mentors volunteers, or are they paid, or?
They're all volunteers. It's straightforward volunteering. They get some benefits. So, for example, they get to go on most of the trips for free, or with the international trips, they get big, whether you can call it discounts, or they only pay a certain percentage of the. So they get certain benefits, but I don't think any of them are doing it for any benefits, financial benefits. Yeah. I think the main two benefits for the volunteers are, number one is they want to do good and give back to the community. Number two, we have a strong mentors community as well. So if you're a young college student or a young professional who are looking for a good community to be your friends, because our mentors had become close friends over time as well. So it's a community for them, as well as they're creating community for their younger brothers and sisters.
And there's a path that's laid out for them, so they know what to do. They're being trained.
Right. They're being trained in the mentorship field, and they're also attending, let's say, all the lectures and all the religious component with the mentees. So if they don't have, let's say, we're talking fiqh, right? Most of our mentors don't necessarily have a particular knowledge in fiqh. So they get to go through the course with the mentees. So
Yeah.
they are also learning and developing their knowledge and
So what do you think, the reason why I'm asking this question is because mentorship definitely takes a lot of time.
it does.
So when you're talking about being a mentor for 7 kids, that's a big commitment. And one of the complaints that you hear from communities all over, and just whether it's people complaining about millennials or whatever it is, they're complaining about their lack of interest, their apathy, their lack of concern, their lack of commitment, their lack of all of these types of things. How are you able to, I mean, are you just finding like some amazing kids in Boston, or have you been able to somehow develop a way to create interest in them or to create commitment from them?
Okay. I think the entire struggle, of course, the hardest part of this job is to manage the volunteers, is to manage the team, because the team is everything. If you have a strong team, you have a strong program. If you don't have a strong team, who's going to manage the 100 or 200 kids that I have? But the hardest period of time was in the beginning, to develop up this interest and make people want to become volunteers. But once you have it already running, bringing more volunteers had become very easy.
Because it's already successful.
Because it's already successful, and then you come, like, let's say you come in to try it, and I'm not relying on you.
Yeah.
So you come in and you try it and you like it and you love it and you go on a retreat with us and you love the environment and you want to stay. So that's a kind of like guaranteed mentor. And I'll tell you in the mentors training, listen, this is the commitment that we're expecting from you. Will you be able to do it? If not, then you cannot be a mentor this semester. You still can come visit every like now and then, but you can't be a semester on this semester. And then the other thing is the assistant mentors. Because if you rely on one mentor all the time, you're going to burn them out, right? So you have like 2 mentors per team. So if someone has exams, the other one can carry on some of the load. If someone cannot come on a retreat, the other person come. So they kind of like alternate on this mentorship. But usually you have like one main mentor and one like secondary or co-mentor who's still in the process of becoming a full mentor.
Jamil, what, so you have the mentors, and then you have the mentees, and the mentors have their own community, the mentees have their own community as well. How important is formulating good friendship? And have you seen any particular, I mean, what are like the stories of transformation that you've seen in these kids?
Well, stories of transformation are, alhamdulillah, a lot. But before I answer this point is, I think the biggest, most important component in anyone's life is
Friends?
companionship, right? Friends. For younger kids, if you put them within a good group and all they do and care about it is good, and no one will be completely perfect, but if they're generally speaking good friends, I think it goes without saying. Like every parent, every teacher, everyone knows this reality. If your kid is hanging out with the wrong group, this is when problems start, right? So when you have this controlled environment, and you know that most of the kids have pretty much like similar values, and some of them would go like away a little bit, and everyone will take care of them and kind of like try to keep everyone sheltered and everyone kind of within like the good path. Extremely important. Like I can't emphasize on this more, but it's the most important aspect in anyone's life, adults and kids, but of course, in kids' life.
How do you correct a bad kid?
Now, correcting a bad kid is...
Or not bad kid, but bad behavior. How do you correct that?
Okay. That's, I would say, multiple layers. So you have the typical teens problem that is easy to handle and easy to deal with. And we kind of like talk about in our mentors retreat. So let's say vaping. Vaping is a big thing, right, for high school kids, and even now sometimes middle school. Okay, you come and you hear like from kids and everything, you know, like how kids community, that okay, X is vaping. How are you going to deal with this? There's one kind of like approach to deal with it, whether it's one-on-one, whether you need to involve the parents or not, based on like the circumstances. Some of the cases are extremely difficult. Someone who's gone like completely off track, and alhamdulillah, we never had to deal with this as long as the kids are within. So usually when the kids are still interested and still come and still listen to the lectures and still hang out with this group, none of them go like really, really off. But sometimes when they, like, let's say completely stop coming to Arcanum and they go off, and then the parents come and say like, okay, we want to bring our kids back. That's a long process, and that's a different process. Some of it is, again, within our expertise. Some of it is not. It involves the involvement of other professionals, whether it's therapy or otherwise. So we consult and do what we know based on our kind of abilities. But the mechanism is typically the mentor takes care of it first, and they try to monitor and talk with the kids one-on-one without involving anyone else. If it's an easy kind of like correction and it's like, we'll work on it together and they see improvement and all of that, then alhamdulillah. If not, they involve the management team, and the management team begin to assess the situation. Typically in this level we'll have to bring the parents in and try to kind of keep it calm and walk them through that what's happening with their child at this moment and how we can tackle it together and all of that. And then the third layer is when we have to bring experts if something beyond our ability to handle.
I'm just wondering if because the bond is so strong, I'm wondering if this is a situation where you can actually like tell a kid, if you do not fix this, I'm not going to be able to let you, for example, participate in Arcanum. And I'm wondering if the bond is strong enough where they will actually want to participate so badly that they will fix whatever.
100%, and it happened a lot. Yeah, I know. Like parents would punish their kids by not bringing them to Arcanum.
That's what I wanted, like, because this is so powerful. In we have the concept of hajr al-mubtadi', right? In early, you'll read about this, about how the Muslim community boycotts or can boycott someone who does innovation or does a fasiq, for example, someone who commits public transgression, and so this becomes a punishment. But we always then qualify it by saying, we don't do this in the United States because if you do, then that person's going to want to go further away. They're just going to be like, who cares? I don't want to go to the masjid anyway. I don't want to go to the Sunday school. But that's dependent on having a really strong relationship with them. If the relationship is so strong that if you do that to them, they'll actually come back, then what's called boycotting or hajr or excommunication or what have you, it actually becomes something that's legislated.
Yeah, it of course has to be done with wisdom, and it has to be done after a lot of like trust is already built. Mm-hmm. So when you tell him like, if you don't stop doing X, or if you do this, you're not going to come on the next trip and stuff, it's effective because this person is already like have this trust with you.
This is their friend circle, and they're very
like
attached.
A mentor, and they know that you're doing this for their best interest. It's not like you're trying to be like authoritarian or any of that. So it does work in alhamdulillah, in many scenarios. It worked for many kids. But again, like I think there's nothing more important in the upbringing of a child more than having a good friend circle. Not only for the kids though. I have some amazing stories from the mentors. I have mentors who are amazing people, but their moms or their parents would come and say like, my child, because mentors, again, they're 19, 20, so just last year, so until they found Arcanum, they didn't have any Muslim friends. All their friends at school were like Americans and stuff, and we as parents were struggling with that, non-Muslims. And
you can be Muslim in America.
Yeah. That's that's an immigrant kind of.
كلهم أمريكان. Yeah.
And then, alhamdulillah, until they found the circle, and then all of a sudden they have a bunch of Muslim friends that they're coming over our house for dinners and this. I told you, like mentors become very close as well. So it's kind of bringing this solution to everyone in the community.
Yeah.
And it has been a blessing, alhamdulillah.
MashaAllah. So what was unique about Boston that made it successful? Because you're not from Boston, right? You were in Houston before at some point in time, and then you decided to relocate to Boston. What were the qualities that made Boston a good place
Well, I lived in Boston mainly because of my engineering job.
Okay.
So this is where I kind of like got there, and I started volunteering within that community. And then when I left my job and did the youth work, it was in Boston. So Boston came about كده by قدر. However, I think Boston being an international hub for a lot of international people coming for school, higher education, and all of this makes a very unique combination of people, especially young parents who are well-traveled. And I think this contributed to the fact that they were open to consider the idea of sending their kids internationally with a group of youth that is a little bit of like a new idea that not everyone is, especially in the United States, communities are conservative and kind of like close on itself. So being in this community, I think allowed for this idea to flourish in a much quicker way, because a lot of those parents who send their kids internationally are travelers themselves. They're not from Boston. They're coming to Boston for education. They might traveled to other locations before Boston and so on. And I think being at the coast, like a quick flight makes you in Europe.
Yep.
Is also made travel.
It's hard, man.
A little bit easier.
When you're in California and you fly for 6 hours, you're still flying over the U.S.
Right. Just to come to Boston, to catch a flight to
it's rough.
London
It's
or
rough.
so.
Yeah. So, that is a good point as far as, the families being comfortable. But even then, was it hard to convince them, like, hey, send your 13, 14-year-olds. These are girls and boys, right? So there's that consideration as well. How were you able to mitigate that or create an atmosphere where they were comfortable doing that?
Particularly about the boys.
Yeah, the boys and girls.
Okay. So
that's a very, very volatile age.
Right. Our family has rules, and I think it's very, very clear rules between the mentees and between the mentors and everyone. We have very trusted sisters that are like the leaders and the mentors for the girls, and we have general rules for the family that we're super strict about it. All the parents know that, all the kids know that. So alhamdulillah, and we kind of like have done this for a long time. So now we know how to kind of keep things into the right place. Alhamdulillah, never had to face any issues when it comes to that because of like the system that we've developed, and of course because of Allah's tawfiq first and foremost. The kids have tried this system within the United States first, so we went on retreats and stuff. The curfew system, the mentorship system, like every group is together and all of that. So it was easier for them to accept, okay, it's similar to like the 3-day trip they had here. They're gonna like apply the same methodology on an 11-day trip or something like that. That's that, and I think the general trust in for our leadership, like myself and the rest of the team, those parents by now they know us very personally. We've been to their houses, we've been invited to dinners with a lot of these families. So this trust is like, okay, I'm sending my daughter with Khaltu X or Tant Fulana. Like they're still like mothers and other
who are part of the team as well.
Exactly, very trusted community members who are traveling with the group. So people again, it's a very family vibe. So
even some of the people traveling are not just the 20-year-old and 19-year-old mentees, but other community members who are
right in our leadership team. We have Mervet, for example. She's a mother of 3, who all of them were part of Arcanum. And she's a very trusted mother in the community, and she's also a very cool mentor.
Are the mothers skydiving also?
Well, I convinced Mervat to go parasailing, but she didn't skydive. She didn't bungee jump, and maybe this is a good message to send her at this point. Like,
Sister Mervat, listen. No, okay, no skydiving.
No, please.
This is my advice to you. No skydiving. Parasailing's okay. Even I've done that, but no bungee jumping and no
if
no
you
skydiving.
do it, you're gonna be even cooler in the side.
No, you're cool enough.
All of the kids.
You're cool enough. Don't worry about that.
Listen to Ammar.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. We stay on the ground. You know what I'm saying? Alhamdulillah. Okay, so Wallahi, Sheikh, I mean, I love the idea of Arcanum, and it's so unique. And I really think that this added notion of travel, and I'm just so impressed, to be honest, with the amount of hours that these kids are engaged with and happy to commit to. And I wish that this could be replicated even more in other communities. Do you see this as a system that can be replicated outside of?
Yes, inshallah. Alhamdulillah, we're working on our first replica in North Carolina, in the Raleigh community, which is inshallah happening very soon. So stay tuned for that.
MashaAllah. Excellent. And finally, where can people find out more about Arcanum? For those who are outside of Boston, obviously in Raleigh, North Carolina, how can people get in contact with you if they're interested in possibly piloting a project?
I think if we can write the website here, it's particularly for the travel, it's arc-adventures.com.
Do you accept kids from all over the country for the international trips?
Right, from everywhere. And even like if your masjid or if your community, like folks who are listening to us, would like to organize a trip for youth, you can reach out to us. We can come and organize it for you. We have, alhamdulillah, this developed system. And we have like amazing destinations that we've been to. And
even within the United States?
Even within the United States.
So if we want to organize a camp, for example, for our kids, and we just want to outsource all of the work.
Certainly. You can reach out to us. And mainly the international kind of trips, we can put that together for any community that desires.
MashaAllah. Jazakallah khair. So what is it again? So it's arc-adventures.
arc-adventures.com.
So we'll put all of the information here. Jazakallah khair, Sheikh. Absolutely a pleasure. And look forward to being a mentor on one of these trips one day.
It will be,
it'll be me and Sister Velvet holding everybody's wallets while they go bungee jumping. Okay, guys. Assalamu alaikum. Appreciate it. Alhamdulillah, man.
I was planning to share a small story, but I forgot.
Which one is it?
It's not a story. لما كنت بقول لك الbenefits بتاعت travel. One really interesting thing that I found, you can connect with people. مثلا, let's say in the United States, if you know any small thing about their culture, or طبعا let alone if you'd been to their country, and I found amazing results from that. يعني مثلا كنت مرة رايح أساعد واحد to rent an apartment.
So you're helping somebody rent an apartment,
right?
Because we might still use this. So.
Oh, okay. طيب. وبعدين the guy who's renting the apartment is from Nepal. I'm sure the Nepali guy in America, he meets like 90% of the people don't even know there's a country under the name of Nepal, right? So I met him and I was like, oh, are you from Nepal? The guy was astonished. Like I said, oh, I've been to Nepal and I've done this and this. He was like amazed by this, right?
Yeah.
He went to his wife inside and I can hear him. It's like, very good people, very good people. The guy doesn't even know nothing about me. Just the idea that I've been to his country made him very happy with me and very pleased with me.
MashaAllah.
Same with language. Like if you meet someone who speaks like a particular language that's not very common here, and you say 2-3 words from this language to the guy, I was like, oh, I know, makes you like become friends, or it makes you like, make the guy likes you even without starting anything. And I found this amazing.
Right, that's it. It creates immediate connection.
Yeah, I've been, alhamdulillah, to over 40 countries.
MashaAllah.
And because of that, I meet people and pretty much like, oh, you're from this country. I've been there. I've done this. And it just like opens conversations and opens like space for kind of like this good atmosphere to start. I found that amazing. SubhanAllah, one of the benefits of
That's beautiful. So what's your favorite country that you've been to?
A very difficult question that I get.
Okay, top 3.
Top 3: Spain, South Africa, and Slovenia.
I haven't been to any of them.
Okay.
Okay, so top 5.
I will add. We'll add Nepal.
Okay, haven't been there either.
Okay.
When are you gonna say Sudan? Or
no, I've never been to Sudan.
There you go. That's why your top 5 isn't correct. Okay. The last one is?
Last one.
Why is Spain number 1? Just tell me about Spain.
Spain, man. Spain is a country that is incredible. It combines between the beauty, like the nature and this type of beauty, the history.
Have you been to Morocco?
I have.
And so the difference between Morocco and Spain in beauty is big?
Oh, طبعا it's big.
Really?
I love Morocco.
طبعا كمان, huh? Okay.
Yeah, I love Morocco, and I love
Yeah.
so many things about it. But Spain, because I've been to Spain several times, and I
Okay.
kind of like drove across the country several times.
MashaAllah. That's called a
The
humble brag, but
mountains.
yeah. That's called a humble brag.
Yeah, the humble.
It's humble, but it's a brag. Yes,
Yeah, yeah.
MashaAllah. Okay.
No, I have.
I just, I've drove across Spain a couple of times, on one of my many trips to
several,
Spain.
I didn't say couple. I said several.
Oh, okay.
Several, I think, is a little more.
Okay, you're right.
Right. And then Andalusia and the culture that comes with that, and the history and the stories and the shi'r, and every time I go to Al-Hamra or Masjid Qurtuba or كده, I just feel I'm in a different world, man.
Allahu Akbar.
It just has this amazing.
I'm gonna have to take that trip.
You should, 100%. 100%.
I try not to go to European countries unless I have to.
Okay.
Just good to say.
لا Spain is
Spain, I'll make an exception for.
The country that is exceptional in natural beauty, and I think you've been there several times, is Switzerland.
I've never been to Switzerland.
Really?
What would take me to Switzerland? I've never been to Switzerland, no.
Oh, I thought you'd been there many times. No. Okay.
Yeah.
Then Switzerland, I don't like everything about the country. It's extremely expensive, though.
That's what I hear.
But,
beautiful,
you won't believe it. Colors هناك, unlike any other colors you see in the world.
Really?
The mountains and the lakes, and I have some really interesting experience that happened to me in Switzerland. But yeah, I've kind of like, these are top.
Anything you'd like to share? The experience?
Very long story, but
okay.
Lovely stuff. Good stuff.
Nice people?
No.
Okay.
Well, let me correct this in case we have Swiss people watching this. I didn't get enough interaction to like say if they're nice or not, but because I was mostly at the like villages and stuff, they're not very accustomed to foreigners. So they were a little bit rude, or a little bit like.
What about
tough.
Spain?
No, Spanish people are, at the most part, especially if you go to the places that are very accustomed to kind of like tourists and stuff, they were cool.
They were always cool throughout your several trips?
Yeah, I never experienced anything negative in Spain.
خلاص,
Awesome.
with that we're done.
Habibi.
We're done.